In today's video, I'm going to show you how most analysts, newsletter writers, pundits, how they analyze markets and how they pull in subscribers and look like a genius until they don't. So almost all newsletter writers will do this. They jump on a trend, but it's always late in a trend before they do it. You need to have that trend kind of set in the psyche of traders and investors before you jump on the trend, and then you pretend like you've been riding this trend all the way up, so you look like you're a genius. And every little dip you tell people that this is a buying opportunity, and until the trend ends, every dip is a buying opportunity, and you will look like a genius, and you'll pull in subscribers, people that are because human nature never changes. For the vast majority of traders and investors, as something starts to go even parabolic, or a trend gets really mature and has been going on for a long time, most people, especially retail type traders that don't really know what they're doing, can't control their emotions, you look like a genius. So we saw that in spades here in Bitcoin, and as this market was starting to go parabolic, there are a few people that don't play this game. I'm not one of the people that plays this game. I'm more of a contrarian. So what happens is I'm trying to pick the beginning of a trend when it's not popular, and if I'm early, then it looks like I'm really wrong, and then I want to hold on until the trend gets really mature, and then when everyone else is piling onto the trend, trying to pretend that they were a genius and rode this all the way up, when in reality they only got on close to the top here after it was safe to call the trend, then that's when I'm wanting to go the other direction. And again, if I'm early, it looks like I'm wrong. And so that's here's the perfect example of it in Bitcoin. I tried to warn people that this was a bubble. Markets don't naturally stretch 200% above their 200-day moving average. That's a sign of a bubble. We were seeing lots of people, most people know that I'm a rock climber. I was even seeing rock climbing partners that were buying Bitcoin. These people had no earthly idea how markets work. All they knew is that their other buddies were making money in Bitcoin, and they wanted to make some money too. So they were buying Bitcoin. So, all of the classic characteristics of Bitcoin were there. I warn people that usually a bubble will either retest or make some kind of a double top. That's exactly what Bitcoin did. So you had a second chance to get out, but during a bubble, people buy into the narrative, and so they can't get out. They can't take profits. They can't see it for what it is, a bubble, and then they hold all the way down because they still believe the narrative. And I had email discussion with somebody just a day or two ago, that they were still convinced that Bitcoin was going to be, the salvation and the place you needed to be for the foreseeable future, even though this is, blatantly a busted bubble. And bubbles don't generally, they generally take a long time to recover. I'm not even sure that Bitcoin is viable, as governments can just outlaw it at any point they want. But, even if it is, it can take 10, 15, 20 years for a bubble to finish the bear market, go through a long phase in the doldrums where it just does nothing year after year after year, and then finally, resumes its upward march, if it is a viable asset. So to think that Bitcoin is going to come back anytime soon is, would have to defy history. More likely, if Bitcoin is going to recover, it's probably going to be like 2030 or 2035 before we could really have any chance of this coming back up and making new highs. So this is just one example. Let me show you some more here. So this is just one of the this is coal. So I had several subscribers on my newsletter. We were kind of just on the fence. Oil was getting a little, too stretched, and it already topped in March. And I had subscribers that were beating beating their chest about coal, among other things. As commodities were moving up into that 3-year cycle top. And they looked like geniuses, but the thing is that they didn't really notice coal until we were up in this area here. And even if they noticed it here, they got in right before a nasty correction. But I tried to warn people that the same thing was happening again. That you got people that look like they're a genius because they're hopping on a trend late in the trend when it's when it's going up parabolic and it's easy to make money. And now what has happened is exactly what I warned was going to happen. Is it's stuck going sideways to probably down. Here's the chart of uranium. I tried to warn people back here, same thing. They were jumping on the narrative. A lot of analysts jumping on uranium after it had already gone up, an insane amount. And they look like a genius at the top, but then they're not contrarian, so they don't get you out when it becomes dangerous. They tell you everything is a buying opportunity until one of these is not really a buying opportunity anymore. It's the beginning of either a very long, choppy sideways consolidation or the beginning of as we saw in Bitcoin, a really a bubble popping. I don't think this is a bubble popping in uranium, but I do think, and I did warn people, that uranium was probably going to go sideways for many months, maybe a year or more, certainly until we get the next 3-year cycle low, which probably isn't due until the spring or summer of next year at the earliest. And so the people that bought into the uranium story or jumped on this trend up here when we had, the genius analysts touting uranium, now they're stuck. It's going, at best it's going sideways, and at worst it's probably whipsawing a lot of people to death. They keep jumping on every one of these trends, thinking that it's ready to start the next big move up, and then they end up getting stopped out for losses. So as I pointed out, it's really hard to make money in these choppy markets like this. There's really no strong trend, and so you tend to be a little bit gun shy, and then once a rally kind of gets moving, then your previous bias of this long trending move jumps in, and you think, all right, here we go, we're ready to start trending again. So you're buying up in here, after a move has kind of started, and then you get caught when it comes back down, and you end up losing money. And that's what's happening over and over and over here in uranium. So another good example of analysts, newsletter writers, and whatnot looking like a genius here at tops because they've jumped on a very mature trend very late in the cycle when it's very easy to make money. Things are trending, going parabolic, but they don't see the warning signs coming that it's too mature, and you need to be thinking about getting out of the way. And if you get out of the way too early, then you look like an idiot because the market keeps going up. But if you get out of the way too early, eventually you look like a genius because you avoid this. Now, I've warned people, same thing is going to happen with XLE, with the energy stocks. Tried to warn people. We got out up in here because this was just getting too insanely stretched to the upside. Did not want to get caught in the crash when it occurred. Again, a little bit early, looked like I was wrong. Now it looks like I was a genius. And I warned people, I said, I don't think energy is going to just, take off and we're ready to start a multi-month trend again. I said, I think it's probably going to at best start to look like uranium or just chopping back and forth. And again, as this rally got underway, it looked like I was wrong. Now it looks like I was a genius. So I would caution people to be leery of following analysts that are pumping a trend that is getting very mature and looks like it can never stop. They're going to look like a genius until that trend ends, and then the difficult times start. And I'll give you the one thing that I think it probably qualifies at this point. This is the dollar. Now, again, it's probably early, which means it's going to look like I'm wrong, but this is a parabolic move. Let me switch this over to the weekly, and before I lengthen this, let me just show you this. This is not natural. So this is something that kind of could occur at the very end topping of a move. So here's another example here. This was the top of the 3-year cycle of just an extremely outsized candle. That's an example of emotions in control. We got the same thing here. We got emotions in control, and the dollar isn't at new all-time highs, so it's not a bubble, but it is absolutely going parabolic, and everybody is now convinced that the dollar can only go up. So we're setting up here for all of the analysts that are telling you that the dollar can only go up, and right now they look like a genius. They're going to look like idiots here at some point soon, and this massive outsized candle is an indication that emotions are now in control of the market, and we're probably closer to the end than we are the beginning. So let me widen this chart just a bit, and you can get a real idea of just how this is the 200-week moving average. You can get an idea of just exactly how extreme this move has become. It's very similar to this move here, and one of two things has to happen. It either has to top and then churn sideways like this did here for a long period of time, and either allow this 200-week moving average some time to catch up to price, or at some point it has to come back down and tag it, and as we saw, it went a little below it. The dollar could do that, could churn sideways for a while, or it could crash. Parabolic moves very often will crash. So this is the market, I think, that is set up to make a lot of analysts who are just, they're just riding this trend, and they've been riding it. Of course, nobody was bullish on the dollar down here, and very few people were bullish on the dollar even in here. But now you got lots of people that are bullish on the dollar, and they're convinced it can never come down, and so they're predicting higher forever, and at some point they're going to look like idiots, as all of these people do. They jump on these trends late, and they push and they push and they push, and they don't ever take a contrarian viewpoint. So then they get caught when the market turns and goes the other way, and eventually it always does. So right now, these people look like a genius. Anybody that would, that says that the dollar, there's any possibility of the dollar turning and going down, looks like an idiot. And I suspect these people are going to look like an idiot for maybe a little bit longer, but then ultimately the people that are calling for a much lower dollar are going to look like a genius, because the dollar, this is going parabolic, and at some point gravity is going to get a hold of this and pull it back down. So just be aware of, if you're a retail type trader and you're prone to following these analysts that are touting these very mature trends, and by very mature, I'm not talking, 3 or 4 weeks. I'm talking something that's maybe been in play for more than 3/4 of a year, 2 years, something like that. Something that's been in play that long, that is very mature and very much at risk of a regression event, and especially if it's the prices stretch a long ways above the mean. You probably don't want to listen to those people as they tout those kind of markets and chart patterns, and you really want to start thinking about contrarian plays. And again, don't panic if you're early, because the contrarians almost always will be early on bottoms and early on tops, but ultimately the contrarians are the ones that come out to be the actual geniuses in the market, not these people that jump on these mature trends late in the trend and then get caught at major tops.